before I came here, I was kind of wondering about Nashville and specifically Nashville eccentrics. You know, just kind of famous oddballs in the history of this great city. And I ended up finding a website, and I don't even know what to make of this, but it's a blog called eccentriccullinary.com, and they have an article or a blog post, I guess, that is the fattest man in Tennessee, Sam Riddleberger, the prince of Nashville caterers.
Well, if you get to be the fattest, they just go, you're a prince now?
In the 1850s, yes.
Oh, 1850s.
Yes.
Dude,
I was about to say, I don't know that guy.
You never met Sam Riddleberger?
I've done a bunch of catering in this town. I have, too. I never ran into old Sam Riddleberger, but I probably ran into one of his descendants.
Yeah.
Cocaine Riddleberger.
Let me just say here, I want to stick up for this guy. People are always like making fun of Taft. You know, President like William.
Yeah.
Well, people are always
they're
making fun of him.
he's so big for being so big, and he was huge, right?
Oh yeah.
But I feel like before about the 1950s, being fat, it was not easy. Right?
Yeah.
You couldn't just go to like McDonald's. Like you had to work at it.
Yeah.
Like, this guy
It was a
had to
power
spend
move.
Time. It was
a way to show you were
power
wealthy.
move.
Was it just a way to show you were wealthy? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, that's probably what they said.
Like I want to date that fat
probably
man
said
because
that.
he's got access to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Very
Because
effective rumor started by.
it was an indication that you were rich because in the days before cars, most people
Holy
walked.
Shit.
Yeah, and most people only had as much food as they had grown, and you got to like parse that out over the winter. This guy's just chowing down the whole time.
So
did that work for women as well? Like,
Yes.
would Giselle Bundchen be a big fat person back then?
yeah, that's why when you see paintings from kind of the late Romantic period, neoclassical era, a lot of the gorgeous women
So
were.
Giselle Bundchen looks like an old time poor person.
Yes,
'Cause
100%.
She's scrawny. Someone in the street would kick if they saw in 1720 or whatever.
So this
One day I'm going to marry me, a football player, and get out of here.
Right. Kick her. Kick her.
You'll always be skinny, Giselle.
Kick her. She's poor. Kick her.
Me bones.
Back then, kicking the poor was a huge
Like, number one sport in England.
hobby. Yeah, there was no Instagram or anything, so you had to.
you had to live in the moment.
Giving poor people Indian burns was like a huge.
What's that? You cold? You cold? Come here.
Kick him. Kick him.
One day I'm going to get fat. It's going to be harder to break my bones when you kick me because I'm going to have padding. Whatever, Giselle.
Kick that Victoria's Secret angel.
So yeah, this is from eccentriccullinary.com.
Oh, shit.
This was written by H.D. Miller. So I was going to read this article.
Eccentriccullinary.com.
Yeah. So in 1857, the fattest man in Tennessee was Sam Riddleberger, a popular Nashville restaurateur who weighed a whopping 543 pounds.
You know, he probably told people that. He was like, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm the fattest man in Tennessee.
Yeah. Equals the wealthiest. Equals have sex with me right now.
Riddleberger cut an imposing figure in pre-Civil War Nashville, a well-liked stout man with a knack for getting up elaborate dinners featuring the many staples of the era: wild game, abundant Norfolk oysters, whiskey, and cigars.
That sounds fun.
I mean, dude, and
I want to go to his dinner.
well, so the restaurant, I looked this up. It is now, I think, the Doubletree Inn next to the state capitol. It's not there anymore.
No way.
Yeah, but it was.
I love that
pretty
kind of
much
stuff.
smack dab in the middle of.
We got to get a metal detector down there and find his
That's
pocket
what this guy's
watch.
forks that he dropped.
I was about to say.
I'm not kidding. Yeah,
oyster
metal
shells.
detectors.
Think about how there's probably a layer of oyster shells underneath that Doubletree
Metal
Inn.
detectors start your engines.
Born in 1824, he started out as a Nashville postal clerk in the late 1830s, and as a young man of
Didn't we all?
comparatively slender build, he clerked on steamboats, making
man.
the run to New Orleans and back.
He was
and
poor.
He then owned a billiard room, bowling alley, and saloons, and managed the racetrack where his talent as a quote-unquote getter-upper of good dinners became apparent. So he started being, I guess, a cook at a racetrack, and
I
sometime
was born at the wrong time. We all were. We could be living nice lives, being best cook at a racetrack. Instead, we're doing this.
We'd all be dead by now because we've out-aged ourselves.
Oh yeah, we'd be dead, but we would have had 8 children and a good life, and we'd be buried with our cooking tools, and we'd be happy as birds.
We'd be buried in the food pyramid.
Now we're stuck looking at goddamn timelines and
I know.
monetizing things.
When back then, just like you grew up and you were a kid, and you're like, one day I'm gonna be the fattest man in Tennessee, Mama. And she's like, keep on dreaming, boy. Keep on dreaming.
Then I'm gonna get gout and I'm gonna die at age 32, and they'll fill my coffin with oyster shells or whatever.
Sometime before 1856, he opened Riddleberger's Eating Saloon in the Colonnade building, just a block west from the public square on the corner of Dedrick and 4th Avenue.
Wow.
And
Eating Saloon.
I love the name. The
Everything was just a
Riddleberger's
saloon back
Eating
then.
Saloon.
Yeah.
And you go to the sleeping saloon to go to bed.
We have arguments about politics, not dreams.
Where's mom? She's in the hospital saloon.
Yeah. Daddy done got elected to Congress. He's going to be in the voting saloon. He's going to be in Congress.
That's true. And everybody was drinking everywhere back then.
Sam Riddleberger and his brother John were what was known in the latter half of the 19th century as sports. Dapper men who loved the loush entertainments of the fringes of societies that dwelled there. For the 25 years before his death in January of 1877, Sam was a regular in all the exciting and expected places. Horse races, cockfights, illegal boxing matches, and public hangings.
Oh my God in heaven. What channel is it? What channel? What fucking website is this again?
Eccentric Cullinary.
I love that.
I do too. I was just looking for Nashville eccentrics. I was thinking there'd be some
Oh my God.
guy that was famous, and then this article came up.
I
was like,
love
this is
going to public hanging.
I mean, as Bob Dylan said, they're sending postcards to
There's
hang.
nothing better than being fat and going to public hanging.
Right now. Right now, someone's listening, going, someone's listening saying, I can't believe they used to fight cocks. And nothing about the public hanging. Someone right now is going, I can't believe they used to fight roosters.
It's a terrible thing they did.
We're worried about the animals.
Both brothers were well-educated and well-bred. John was quiet, unassuming, and courteous. Sam, a bit more boisterous. Everyone who met them liked them. During the Civil War, brother John moved to Louisville and set up shop running the biggest faro bank in several states. So faro is the game that poker replaced. Faro is what they play. If you ever watch Deadwood, that's what Al Swearingen is running, is faro games. A faro bank, you were the guy with the money, and people would borrow from you, and you would take a cut from their winnings, essentially. So this guy was a rich dude that problem gamblers would borrow money off of. He's a bookie, essentially.
This sounds good. Yeah, they sound like a lot of fun.
So he eventually accumulated over $100,000 of gold in the process of being a faro banker.
Wow.
And he bought racehorses and regularly took them to Saratoga, where the New York high society people held court during racing season. If John was a man who loved cars and horses, Sam was the king of the fighting cocks. Described by Nashville Union and American, this is from March 20th, 1875. They called him the most widely known game chicken raiser in Tennessee. So that was
game chicken.
That was his thing.
Razor.
Yeah. And he popped up in the press with a surprising regularity. This is from the Nashville Union and American. On Election Day in Nashville, this is August 5th, 1869. This is the quote. Sam Riddleberger, the largest man in Tennessee, along with Charlie Decker, reported to be the smallest man in the world, will be conveyed to West 4th Ward poll in a large wagon this morning so they can have a chance to cast their votes. We understand that a large procession will be formed, headed by a band to escort the extraordinary pair to the place holding the election.
Yeah, you'll know which car it is too, because it's the one that's leaning real hard on the right side.
Yes, exactly. So Charlie Decker,
Chicken bones coming out the window.
Charlie Decker was a stalwart on the circus freak show scene. He was the smallest man in the world. That was his thing, and just I guess as a way for the local Democratic Party to drum up people, because election day used to be fun. If you've seen Gangs of New York, there'd just be a giant fight in the streets sometimes, or just people would be going nuts one way or the other. And in Nashville, 1869, so post-Civil War, radical Republicans got all that stuff going on. They were like, what's the best way to get people out to the polls? It's like, all right, well, circus is in town. We've got the smallest guy ever. let's get that giant fat guy that owns the oyster house.
Wait, they were going for the Democrats?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, yeah.
This is when the federal government was still paying attention, and they just couldn't use guns to keep black people away from the polls. So they're like,
Right.
we're gonna have to use a carrot, not the stick. What do we do? And they go, I know who likes carrots.
Yeah,
Riddleberger.
One thing, and this is the writer says this, one thing I want to highlight about this anecdote is the ability of a fat man to draw a crowd in the mid-19th century. Which, as a fat stand-up comedian, this is not the case anymore. Let me tell you, folks. So
I thought you were gonna say he got elected to be mayor because they just weighed everybody and he was the heaviest, and that's how you got to be mayor back then.
he went the most.
They walked up to the scales.
Yeah, yeah.
Riddleberger's won it again.
Yeah. So
It just makes me sad. I miss this. I've gone crazy, but missing. Like, I'm so dissatisfied with the present that this is just all making me sad. This all sounds so wonderful. Just when being fat was like a wonderful thing. Now they got this horrible movie, The Whale, making everybody think everybody who's fat is like miserable. And back then, being fat was like a power move. And that is crazy. I mean, how much further away can we? The world is run by fitness nuts now.
Yeah.
Like, who want to live forever. Instead, back then, everybody was willing to die, and they were happy to be fat.
yeah, I own a restaurant. I get to chop giant slabs of meat every day, and
seriously, this shit makes me sad. I'm insane, probably, because I'm sure that, obviously, life back then sucked a million different ways.
Right.
By the way, if we've done the math, we already know the guy dies like at age 53.
Right. That's the thing, is that he didn't spend his whole life looking at hot people on some slideshow. I enjoy Instagram, but it's really a diabolical slideshow of dicks.
So there are many newspaper stories relating to the tastiness of Sam Riddleberger's food and to his hospitality, but convivial fat men were also a major attraction in and of themselves, to the point that his brother, John Riddleberger's obituary in the Louisville Courier in 1905 suggested that the success of Riddleberger's eating saloon was partly attributable to Sam's adiposity. Quote, his brother, Samuel Riddleberger, for years conducted a restaurant in Nashville, which got a lot of free advertising from the fact that Sam was probably the fattest man in Tennessee, if not the South. So people were eating here with just the simple thing of like, oh, that guy's huge. I bet that food kicks ass.
What did they say the name of that thing was? Convivial Fat Men?
Yes.
That's a indie rock band name.
That's a Mountain Goat
Everybody's
song.
skinny in the indie rock band.
Could you imagine being fat and melancholy back then and just being like, my attitude is preventing my fame?
Yeah. I can't emphasize, and Ben, of course, is a history professor, and you can vouch for this. I can't emphasize enough how boring it used to be. So when just a giant man was walking down the street, people were like, well, shit, I've never seen anything like that.
Oh, it was 1 year ago, we recorded an episode of Gifts from the Woods with Narado that was just about Sam Patch. A man who was famous for jumping off things.
He jumped off things, and he was the most famous man in 1820s America.
Andrew Jackson named a horse after him.
Yeah, this makes me sad. This is all sad. This is all stuff I would have excelled at, and I actually did excel at.
I was gonna say,
nobody cared.
The alcohol stuff.
I'm serious. I jumped off shit for years.
What's
I never made any money.
What'd you top off at? What was the biggest jump?
No, I just remember being drunk and I would jump off stuff and crash to the ground. Like, I jumped off my friend's pickup truck over and over one night, like onto my head, just for to make people laugh. But I didn't get any money or anything, and I certainly didn't get a president naming their horse after me.
No.
You would have.
You had to do it more than once.
No, I was doing that. This is me. I'm a 19th century man.
Hell yeah.
I'm a 19th century attraction.
That's
and
true.
a 21st century sad man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just knowing that even if you got to be the fattest man in Tennessee, you wouldn't.
It wouldn't matter. They'd make some movie called The Whale about me.
I love this sentence. Fat men were especially prized before the Civil War. Unless you were a man of substance and leisure, it was very difficult to hit 300 pounds in this era.
Oh my goodness.
Hard physical labor, lots of walking, relative food scarcity, and or tastelessness meant that the average man rarely made it out of 200 pounds.
Yeah, and this guy made it through the Civil War, by the way. There's a time when food is scarce. This guy's still finding it.
Yeah.
Plus, everybody traveled by those like pump railroad things.
Yeah. There's no cars yet.
It was hard. It was hard to. It was hard to stay fat, even if you wanted to.
Those who were over 300 pounds were noted, talked about, and celebrated. For example, Dixon Hall Lewis was a lawyer and congressman from Alabama who ballooned to 500 pounds while in office. Gregarious and intelligent, Dixon Hall Lewis was considered an exceptional orator, but he always did so seated. Lewis...
500, you said?
500 pounds.
That's big.
Senator.
That's very big.
Lewis's official seat in the Senate was a specifically constructed chair fitted with unusually heavy suspension springs, from which he waxed eloquent about states' rights. Lewis reportedly broke the bottom out of a stagecoach, a story gleefully and often recounted by his enemies. The obese senator died in 1848 at the age of 46 while in Brooklyn, New York, visiting a weight loss doctor.
He broke the bottom out of a stagecoach.
This guy was...
I mean, it's
and
funny.
people made fun of him for it, but he was like, keep on telling it, man. That's how fat I am.
Well, and he was an amazing speaker, too. That's the thing. It's like, dude.
He was like, ladies and gentlemen of Nashville.
Do you know how rich you have to be to wheeze like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, go ahead and laugh now, buddy. I am a great orator. I am going to layeth the smacketh down. One of the more popular lectures in the 1840s and 50s was the Reverend Henry Giles, a scrawny, hunchbacked Irish Catholic immigrant turned Unitarian minister whose humorous lectures on the literature were well attended and widely reprinted. Here's an excerpt from an 1844 lecture on Shakespeare's Falstaff that sums up the general attitude towards men of size. And this is incredible. And again, this is stand-up comedy. This is basically what this is a guy, he was a Unitarian minister, but he would just go around giving funny speeches about the entertainment of the day, which would have been literature. So this is his riff on
cockfighting
and hanging. This the three things. There were three things to do: cockfights, public execution,
private hangings were like pay-per-view,
and Shakespeare. That was it. So yeah, this is his riff on Falstaff and fat folks. He says, "There's something cordial in a fat man. Everybody likes him, and he likes everybody. Food does a fat man good. It clings to him. It's killing. It's great. It clings to him. He swells nobly out, and he fills a generous space in life. He is a living, walking specimen of gratitude to the bounty of the earth and the fullness thereof, an incarnate testimony against the vanity of care, a radiant manifestation of the wisdom of good humor. A fat man, therefore, almost in virtue of being a fat man, is per se a popular man, and commonly he deserves his popularity. A fat man." He's doing like the Chris Rock thing. He's just hitting the main thing. He keeps going back to it.
The fat man.
Yeah, it's his daddy gets the big piece of chicken. He's just going to keep coming back to it. A fat man has an abundance of rich juices.
Lord.
Who said this?
This is a
hunchback.
This is a
hunchback preacher.
A hunchback Unitarian Irish Catholic immigrant. Henry Giles.
Henry Giles.
Yeah, Reverend Henry Giles. A fat man has an abundance of rich juices. The hinges of his system are well oiled. The springs of his being are noiseless. And so he goes on his way, rejoicing in full commitment and placidity. It doesn't take a great deal of wrong to make one hate a fat man. And if we are here not always so cordial to a thin man as we ought to be, Christian charity should take into account the force of prejudice that we have to overcome against thinness. So...
This guy's talking about everything but hunchbacks.
I know. Well, I mean, he's probably already did that earlier in the set. That's during a little bit about me.
He's trying to curry favor with the fat people, so he can go to good parties. Because you know how much this guy wished there was an essay like this written about hunchbacks.
He's calling Victor Hugo, like at the moment.
Who doesn't love
the
a
rich
hunchback?
juices of a hunchback?
Like a majestic peak on the horizon.
Yes.
The hunchback's hump rises with the morning
Enjoys
sun.
life so much that his back got big.
Can we still say hunchback?
I
feel
think
like we
so.
shouldn't. Every time I say it, I'm like, I don't know.
Luckily, it doesn't come up much.
But when it does.
So that's from a touring hunchback minister. This is an anonymous filler item from the Palmyra, Missouri Whig, dated September 20th, 1849. "We like fat people. Good, jolly, laughing. broad-visaged, honest fat people. We love fat women, fat boys, fat babies, fat purses, a fat list of subscribers and advertisers, fat everything. Fatness is a sign of big health. Fat men are never treacherous.
That led to a lot of trouble right there.
Fat women are not sharp-tongued. Fat boys are not mischievous. Fat babies are always good and fine. Fat people are the kindest and therefore the most popular. Commend us to fat people. So that's just in the newspaper. They were just like, oh, well, we got 3 inches of space between these two headlines. I just typed something up and that was just thrown in there.
I wonder if some of this is like fat people writing this stuff.
I'm okay with
I'm
okay with that.
A rotund
Like
conspiracy.
fat people aren't treacherous. I mean, that's not right. I mean, even if fat people are fun, doesn't mean they're not treacherous.
I mean, I've told you, I'd stab any back. Any back I see, I'm stabbing it.
The more the better.
Yeah.
The more back there is.
Absolutely.
Rivers, you are not fat. Certainly not by these
Yeah,
standards.
not by these
They're talking
standards.
about these. You're not. I mean, you look like a mild amount of fun to these people. If they saw you coming, they would say this guy might be a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's convivial, but
His
his
hinges aren't greased as much as we like it.
juices, they're flowing, but not quite. All the way.
The
not
vanity
all the way.
of care was something that stuck out to me too. They're not wrong about that.
Oh, yeah, no.
Vanity is like so popular now that no one even thinks it's a bad thing. So
Right.
it's like a virtue.
So now you get a sense of how valued fat men were when you realize that Kentucky alone produced 2 300-pound Civil War generals, the Confederacy's Humphrey Marshall and the Union's William Bull Nelson, who, of course, is the guy who marched into Nashville. Lincoln thought naval officers turned General Bull Nelson handsome and aristocratic.
It's so weird because at the beginning of the war, the only real good general the Union has is Winfield Scott. And by that point, he was so big he couldn't even ride on a horse.
Yeah.
You'd have think by these stats, you thought the Union would have won at Bull Run.
Right,
Been over. They'd have been like, they got the fattest general, they win.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
So on February 25th, 1862, federal troops under the command of Bull Nelson marched into Nashville. One of Nelson's subordinates, Brigadier General William B. Hazen, checked into the St. Cloud Hotel, 1 block from Riddleberger's, where he says, quote, "We found in the hotel, fast asleep and very drunk, one rebel soldier, the largest man I ever saw in a uniform. As I sent him away with a single guard, he looked like a veritable giant guarded by a pygmy. And we all wondered if he was a sample of the men we were about to encounter." So they see Sam sleeping in the hotel next to the restaurant, and this guy's like, Jesus, are they all this huge? Like,
They had to leave this one behind. He couldn't quite run with the rest of them.
well, that's what happened. That's literally exactly what happened. They put him he was in a Confederate uniform. There's no pictures of this, which is upsetting, but yeah, he puts on the uniform. He's like, I guess I'll stay here, fellas, and defend the city. And then the troops came in. He's like, you guys want some food? And then he just signed an allegiance slip to the Union and just started serving out of the restaurant.
And
again.
they started showing him. He's like, I don't know if you believe you can trust me, but here's all these newspaper articles about how you can totally trust a fat man. You gotta.
I know. Yeah.
Hear them joints? No, you don't.
The end of the war did not.
Fat men cater to the enemy.
Yeah. They're not treacherous, but they will feed the army that it just invaded your city.
Fat men fall asleep when there's a war and then cater to the enemy.
I mean, I will say he did literally exactly what I would do in that situation. Just man, guys, I can't handle this, and then everybody shows up like, would you take some food instead of bayoneting me? How about that?
Also like the way like he didn't even change his clothes. Like he could have probably got some different clothes.
Well, he fell asleep.
He just goes, I'm not even gonna plan for this. He's
Yeah.
just like, I'll wake up. Like
The end of the war did not initially bring prosperity to Nashville. The Union Army had provided enough customers to allow 13 restaurants and 109 saloons to do a lively business during the occupation. But now that the soldiers had gone home, Sam struggled to make a go of things. In 1866, he introduced a price-fixed menu, only 50 cents for a meal, and fitted out rooms in the back of the restaurant as a hotel, advertising both things in the newspaper throughout the region. Competition for business was fierce. The newly refitted St. Nicholas restaurant had a billiard room, a 10-pin bowling alley, and a pistol range on the 3rd floor. So,
on the 3rd floor. That way you can get some good. You missed your target. You get some good spread off that.
I was about to say, you missed your target. You will hit some people on the street below. So that's good.
You go, why is all the real estate about 300 yards east of the eating saloon? Why is it so cheap?
I can't remember if this was on the podcast or if this was just a real life conversation, but I for sure heard somebody tell me the story about hearing like a gun go off and seeing their neighbor on the balcony just firing into the air. And they were like, what the fuck? He's like, oh, don't worry. We're just trying to keep the rent down.
Yeah, stray bullet hit somebody in the head 3 blocks away from here,
Yeah,
Nobody catches who did it.
Yeah, but I'm only paying $950 for this apartment, so
Where was this?
I believe this was in LA. I'm trying to remember who
good,
told me
densely populated
this.
area. That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. It's like, it's going onto the freeway. Who cares?
That's a good idea.
They have a pistol range along with Robertson County whiskey old enough to vote in the next election. Oh, that sounds fun.
Which was 21 in those days.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, old whiskey. Business picked up throughout the summer of 1869. Riddleberger was probably the most important meeting place in Nashville. Only 2 blocks from the State House, businessmen, printers, politicians, and other rascals frequented the restaurant, and the rooms upstairs were busy with the meetings of fraternal organizations and clubs such as the Nashville Blood Horse Association and the Davis County Agricultural Club. I'm like, well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Blood horse?
Blood horse.
All I know is whenever they say rascals, that means rapists.
It's not good. It's not good.
100%.
That's like Alexander Hamilton's son died in a duel because someone called him and his friends some damn rascals, and he was like,
that's
I
right.
can't stand for this.
Yeah.
A blood horse, by the way, it's what we would now call a thoroughbred. So blood meaning like pure blood. Thoroughbred stallion is a blood horse. So these are horse racing people. The sidewalk outside the restaurant was widely known as Riddleberger's Corner. The corner was an open air lounge for gentlemen of leisure who enjoyed nothing more than spirited political debate and impromptu displays of amateur pugilism. So there's just literally people just beating the shit out of each other on the street and fighting about politics. So that's kind of fun. Again, we're like a block away from the capital of Tennessee. The State House is right there.
Right by where Andrew Jackson and one of his friends got in a shootout with the Benton brothers like 30 years before, 40 years before. You know what I'm saying? Just firing at each other in the streets.
Hell's Half Acre, which was right behind the Capitol, was like a shanty town, basically. And that was that way till the 50s in Nashville. It's only recently that, it's become like condo world and full of boring skinny people.
Yeah, I know, right?
Seriously, this town's been taken over by skinny people. That's
all
the
the
problem.
houses are tall skinnies.
We got to bring back these fat people and let them make this town good again.
Make Nashville fat again.
I've always said what the South needs is more obese people. Chris.
Yeah, there's not enough. There's not enough
obesity.
No, that's why.
Well, no, we just have to scale up.
That's why the South is the most popular area in America.
We just got to scale up from this time period. If these people are oppressed by 500-pound people, we need 1,000-pounders on parade floats every day. Frankly,
I guess that's right. What am I talking about? I'm just talking. I'm caught up in I just came back from Los Angeles, so everybody's fucking skinny there. At least all the fucking. All the people in show business are trying to be skinny so they can be like the next Aquaman or whatever.
I moved to Los Angeles with $500 in a dream, and that dream was to be the next Aquaman.
There are people out there who are trying. They don't know what else to do
except be Aquaman.
Yeah, they just get ripped and go to LA, and then they're like
ripped and be an Aquaman.
Be Aquaman.
I've met people who are. That's their dream.
Look, I don't need to be the Aquaman. I just want to be an Aquaman of some description. Doesn't matter. I'll be an Aquaman has sex with people. That's fine.
That's usually how it ends up. Yeah, I think that's how it ends up. Aquaman. Yeah.
Hey, I'm here to fix your fish tank.
Oh God.
Aquaman? Yeah, that's right.
They got this guy called the Aquaman. You can piss on him.
Okay. He's going to be on a float going to the ballots on election day.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got him at the cast party for Succession. They all pissed on him.
Kept his mouth open the whole time like he had gills.
Oh, yeah.
Inside, the dining room was frequently as lively. The high emotions of Reconstruction played out as radical Republicans, conservatives, and Democrats drank their Robertson County whiskey and exchanged sharp words. A large painting of Robert E. Lee on one wall was a target of both invective and adoration, and polite manners were not always observed. This is from the Republican Banner, dated 1868. Headline, "Stabbed with a knife." A man named William Bradley went into Riddleberger's Tuesday night, sat down by John Jackson, who was eating a meal. He then dipped his fingers in Jackson's plate and coolly commenced stowing away the food. So he just reaches over and just grabs some food off of this guy's plate.
That is, I don't care what century it is. That is a dick move. That like, there's no century where that was okay. It's always meant the same thing. It's always meant fuck you.
To this rather unusual proceeding, Jackson made some objection. I'm like, yeah, I'd imagine
objection?
So. Sir, I object to you sticking your fingers in my gravy and turkey.
People didn't wash their hands back then either.
No.
You know, these weren't clean hands.
A quarrel ensued, which terminated in the stabbing of Bradley in the cheek with a knife penetrating into his teeth. Jackson was arrested yesterday and given bond for his appearance before the commissioner. And so the guy like sticks his hand in and then is rightfully stabbed in the mouth by this guy. Just insanity.
What was the name of that guy? John Jackson?
Yeah, so the guy who stuck his fingers in the food was William Bradley, and John Jackson stabbed him. Which especially in those days, as you said, no one's washing their hands. I mean,
I gotta say, I hope that right before Jackson did it, he said, "You, sir, need to learn how to use some silverware." And just something epic like that. And he turns around and goes, "Did anybody see that? What, being Aquaman now?"
Yeah.
Right
Being
for
Aquaman.
Yeah.
Lines like that.
Things seemed to be going well, and then in the middle of August of 1869, Sam got sick. Very sick. The reports of August 12th didn't specify what was wrong, just that Sam was lying at the point of death, adding, "There is no hope for recovery." That's what the newspaper said. But then he lived, and although it took a while, we know that the final years before his death, he slept upright in a chair, probably suffering from sleep apnea. Unfortunately, 1869 was also the year that Maxwell House Hotel opened up 2 blocks down Cherry Street.
Oh, yeah.
And the hotel had cost more than $500,000 to build and had taken more than a dozen years to complete, thanks to the Civil War. At its opening in October, the Maxwell House immediately became the preferred spot for fine dining in Nashville. Unlike Riddleberger's old Stan, with its manly atmosphere of rowdy knife fights and pistol whippings, the Maxwell House was a place you could safely take your wife, daughters, and mother-in-law. So
Maxwell House was for the dandies, huh?
Yeah, Maxwell House was for people who didn't want to get stabbed in the mouth just for the crime of putting their fingers in mashed potatoes. Almost the same time, early fall 1869, the city authorities cracked down on the crime of tippling on the Sabbath, which is Sunday laws, drinking on Sunday.
Tippling.
Tippling.
Yeah.
Several prominent hoteliers.
Rascals tippling.
I feel like if you brought that word back for drinking, like people wouldn't do it anymore. They'd be like, "What were you doing last night? Were you out tippling last night?" Like, "No, Mom, I wasn't tippling. I wouldn't tipple."
I'm straight edge now.
Straight edge. Well, maybe.
I don't tipple. Yeah. Several prominent hoteliers and restaurateurs, including Sam, were caught selling liquor to customers on Sunday. Sam pled guilty in a September court session. He was ordered to pay a total of $750 in fines. By February of 1870, he was in real financial trouble. An advertisement in the Republican Banner announced that the clerk of Chancery Court would auction off some of Sam's jewelries, 1 diamond cluster breast pin with a small chain attached, and 2 diamond cluster rings. The jewelry was sold to satisfy one of Sam's creditors. So this dude had just a diamond on his chest, like a fucking king.
I feel like it'd be a good deal because there's probably enough there for 2, right? Like a regular person could like make 2 rings out of it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
His bracelets, your
fucking
necklace.
rings are probably like hula hoops.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like his ring would just be like a WWF like championship belt.
Yeah, hell yeah. By the fall of 1870, Sam was out of business. A few months later, early 1871, newspapers announced that the Ambrose brothers, rival restaurateurs of long standing, had outfitted a new restaurant in the old Riddleberger space. After that, Sam seems to have headed to Louisville because the next time we see him in the newspaper, it's as the subject of a distressing rumor dated July 22nd, 1871. There was a rumor in the city last night, which we could trace to no reliable source, that Sam Riddleberger had died yesterday in Louisville. But again, Sam isn't dead. So they just keep printing stories of like, this guy is about to die, and he just doesn't. But once again, Sam did not die. Instead, he returned to Nashville. The next few years are kind of hazy, probably because Nashville and its restaurants were experiencing the first waves of the coming economic depression from the Panic of 1873. In Nashville, over the next couple of years, restaurants closed and hotels failed. During 1874, in the depths of the Depression, Sam opened another Riddleberger's restaurant at 76 Church Street and seemed to thrive. This is from the Columbia Herald, February 5th, 1875, quote, Riddleberger is 51 years old. He weighs 296 pounds, but the most he ever weighed was 523.
Still talking about it.
He fattened 160 pounds in the year of 1864. At one time, he came near suffocating with corpulency, and the doctors reduced... This is the weirdest shit I've ever heard. The doctors reduced his weight 173 pounds in just 5 days by keeping him unconscious.
I think they cut off a leg.
I was like,
That's impossible.
I think the rot set in.
I think that's like not...
You can't do that. There's no way to do that. Just because someone falls asleep for 5 days doesn't mean they lose.
Like, I got the
176 pounds.
that's what I was gonna say. I got the flu really bad one time and lost like 15 pounds over the course
Not
of a
that
week,
many pounds.
but not 173.
Nope.
He said he was always hungry, but he did not eat but twice a day, and he chewed tobacco incessantly. The Ambrose brothers closed their restaurant in Sam's old space, sold the fixtures, and in 1876, Sam was back in business at his old spot, doing a brisk trade. This is from the Nashville Daily American, December 17th, 1876. Sam Riddleberger in his glory, oysters as fat as he is, always on hand.
He's basically like a washed-up athlete. Like he opens up a restaurant in his hometown. Like pictures on the wall from when he used to be like the best.
Yes.
Like now he's just a shadow of his former self.
Yeah, he is a shadow. He's lost all that weight while he was asleep.
Yeah.
All the parents are like, I remember when he was that big. And the kids are like, we don't get it.
76 pounds. I fell asleep for 4 days.
Yeah.
The question remains.
Body by Rip Van Winkle.
Yeah, I don't know. Some guys with Russian accents apparently harvested a couple of my organs.
Unfortunately, less than 1 month after this advertisement, Sam was dead. He caught a cold during Christmas week that turned into pneumonia, and that killed him on the 6th of January. Sam Riddleberger's obituary at the Daily American. This is from January 7th. Death of Sam Riddleberger. Samuel Riddleberger, one of the best-known characters of Nashville, died in his room in the Colonnade building at 3 o'clock yesterday morning of congestion of the lungs brought about by a cold contracted during Christmas week. The deceased was born in Kentucky. At the time of his death, he returned to Tennessee in his early youth and made Nashville his home. So they wrote a nice obit for him. The next day, Sam's partner, Oliver Towles, great name for a guy who owns a bar.
Spelled like the regular towels, Towels.
It's Towles.
Oh,
Later to be founder of a junk shop where you can buy Dragon energy drink.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ollie's. That's right.
It all comes back around.
He assured Nashvillians that Riddleberger's restaurant would continue under the name of its founder. Oliver Towles did his best, and although it changed hands at least 3 times, Riddleberger stayed in business until 1882. Without Sam, however, the embodiment and illustrator of good living, Riddleberger's was just another restaurant. So, wanted to shout out Sam Riddleberger.
It's like if they kept on trying to keep Planet Hollywood open after all the stars left, and it was just some dude named Oliver Towles.
Well, they still got the Planet Hollywood Casino somehow, so it continues in a weird way. You know, that's where Britney Spears had her residency.
Oh, okay. They're still getting famous people in there, but do they have the fattest person in all of whatever state it's in?
No, but Charlie Sheen gets drunk there occasionally. So that's kind of fun.
That's the theme.
I don't know. I just wanted to share that because as I was reading it, the descriptions of large people from old newspapers was just giving me a lot of joy of just being like, look at him.
It's just something you wrote about.
He fucking loves it.
You saw that and you wrote about it. You go, this needs to go in the newspaper.
Look how fat he is. He loves it.
Convivial, well-oiled joints.
Yeah.
Lots of fluids.
Just bouncing down the street like a bag of goo.
I mean, I think that's people just projecting
right.
their ideas about fat people. Like a fantasy. Like they imagine if I were fat, imagine how much fun I'd be having.
Also, like multiple times somebody saw this guy, thought he was dead, didn't do anything about it, just went and told somebody. It was like, he's dead now.
Right.
Like, I'm not moving him.
Over and over again.
Over and over again.
He's dead again. He's dead. No, he's not. He's still breathing.
Back.
Oh,
We've heard this before. You've seen him.
Oh, he couldn't possibly be still alive. Oh my God, he's back, and he's got the biggest oysters you've ever seen.
How big was? Where did he get them? Or is he? How's
Norfolk,
he getting such big ones?
Yeah.
How's he getting such big oysters?
Yeah, he's going to Norfolk, and
so that guy. This is when Nashville was probably like so small.
Yeah, I mean, it was the capital of the state, so it was it had to be big relative to the rest of Tennessee.
I guess so. Yeah, but still, everybody must have known that guy. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Clearly, he was local celebrity. He came.
Everybody. Yeah. Like everybody in town would know who that was. So he would get like special treatment everywhere. People probably gave him food.
Yeah.
Everywhere he went.
likes.
That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
If you
make him more convivial.
I mean, that's the thing. He owned a restaurant, but if you had your own restaurant and you had this guy eating there, it was almost like a stamp of approval. You're like, well, he loves it. Look at him.
It was like feeding cheese to a dog. It's like, look how happy he gets.
Yeah, and when he lost weight, nobody liked him anymore.
You think he tried to because he was so famous, you think he tried to live a regular life? So he went out with a hoodie with the hood up sometimes, like actors do, to be like, nobody, you don't want the paparazzi following me around.
Yeah.
Paparazzi back then was hauling a lot of equipment. You know what I'm saying? They were kind of set up fast.
Oh, absolutely.
Hold still.
Oh, you're right. They had to blow up. They had to blow up that fucking platform or whatever. To hold up that platform and have it
Get the
explode.
daguerreotype out.
Yeah.
I wonder how many photographers had their arms blown off back then by putting too much of a charge in the. There had to have been a lot of accidents.
Oh, yeah.
With those
for sure.
exploding freaking flashes.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I never even thought about that.
I think we should. That's something you should look into.
We gotta look it
I
up.
want to read about that. I bet there were so many people killed while they were getting their family portrait taken, and it must have been a bloodbath. Can you imagine?
This is what the family looked like just before the photo. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, immortalized.
But now they're all dead. They'll stay still.
Yeah, people think, oh, you guys must have been in the war, and no, we did a portrait. You're familiar with flash photography.